Let's go to number 4. Number 4, which says, there we go. That was right. And then okay. It says, faith is the belief in things, without evidence. If you had evidence, you wouldn't need faith. I don't know what this meme picture's from, some cartoon, but the picture of it is a guy who rips off the wallpaper and reveals this amazing truth, right? Hey guys, faith is, and notice this, a lot of people define faith in these weird ways, but they shouldn't. And so faith is the belief in things without evidence. Is that what faith is? There we go. Number 4. Thanks for the reminder. From my assistant, Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Hi, mods. Thanks guys for all your help. Couldn't do it without you. The chat is already crazy, and it would be a dumpster fire without the mods in there helping to calm things down when possible. So is faith belief without evidence? Is that actually a biblical view? It's very popular. It's a popular belief that and I even heard a thing where some clip, like a short clip of Ben Shapiro talking about faith, and every religious thing, it requires just a blind leap of faith. All religions require a blind leap of faith. And I think that he's operating from that same perspective of, oh, faith is kind of without evidence. That's just the nature of faith. And I think this is a very unbiblical thing. Many Christians will say it. I've heard it said many times. Well, how do I know the Bible is really true? Man, that's what makes it faith. You don't know. You just got to trust. I think this is dangerous and actually reckless kind of way of doing things, but not just because of me personally. I had a conviction in my heart for a long time that I didn't like this attitude. But as I studied the Bible with this question in mind, I found many places where the Bible totally refutes this weird definition of faith. I'll give you first the Greek reason why, and then I will give you specifically from Jesus evidence that this is not the case. First, the Greek thing. Faith, the word pistis, that's the word faith in Greek or belief. That word does not mean without evidence. No ancient Greek is thinking that when someone says you have to have faith, it means there is no evidence. And that if you added evidence, it's no longer faith. Some skeptics and atheists have gone so far as to say, I don't believe anything. I have no faith in anything because all I believe in is evidence. And it's a very confused perspective on things, on what belief means, because they start to think that faith and belief literally means I have zero evidence for what I believe. Therefore, I believe nothing. I have no beliefs. I only have, I'm convinced by evidence. They have to find new ways of using English because it's getting really weird. But here's some specific scriptures that we can look at. We'll look first at Mark 9. Mark chapter 9. And I'd encourage you, Christian, if you're listening, you may have said this with all the most wonderful intentions, but please don't. Faith doesn't mean lack of evidence. And I'll explain why I think you might be confused on this in a moment after I go through a few verses on this. Please just consider these thoughts. Here's Jesus himself. In, I think it was Mark 5. I think I wrote down Mark 9, but I think it was. Matthew 9. Matthew 9. I wrote Mark and it was Matthew. All right, Matthew chapter 9. I'm going to back up a little bit to verse 1 here. And it says, and getting into a boat, he crossed over and came to his own city. And behold, some of the people brought to him a paralytic. So the paralyzed person comes up, lying on a bed. And when Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralytic, and what is, by the way, just context, right? What does the paralytic want? He wants to be healed. He wants healing. Jesus says to him, take heart, my son, your sins are forgiven. Now, this is Jesus derailing the moment because he's going to utilize this moment for something that he has an agenda for. He doesn't offer the guy healing. He offers him forgiveness. Now, that may be disappointing to some, but I'll tell you what, he offered him something better than healing. But let's read on because this is about faith in the end. And behold, some of the scribes said to themselves, this man is blaspheming, because they didn't think that Jesus had the authority to forgive sins. Only God could do that. So they thought it was blasphemy that he claimed the authority to forgive sins like that. But Jesus, knowing their thoughts, said, why do you think evil in your hearts? For which is easier to say, your sins are forgiven, or to say, rise and walk? Now we could debate which one's actually easier. With just your words, it's easier, in my mind, it's easier to just tell someone, oh, your sins are forgiven. but it's not easy to say it and make it actually happen, right? Like make that forgiveness be real. But to say to somebody, rise and walk, if they don't physically get up and walk, everybody knows you're a fraud. But if you say your sins are forgiven, nobody immediately knows you're a fraud. So the one that has evidence, that's evidence-based for proof, is the rise and walk one. So Jesus uses it. Check this out. But that you may know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins, he then said to the paralytic, rise, pick up your bed and go home. Jesus himself, he doesn't say, well, guys, faith is blind. You must believe without evidence. No. What does he say? I will prove to you that I can authoritatively forgive sins by healing this man right now. And when he rose, he rose and went home. And when the crowd saw it, they were afraid and they glorified God who'd given such authority to men. Jesus himself uses a miracle as evidence to demonstrate and stir up faith in others. And this is not the only time. Remember the story of Lazarus? Well, in John, Lazarus who dies, and 4 days later, Jesus raises him from the dead. In the Gospel of John, chapter 11, verse 15, Jesus talks about why he delays going to see Lazarus. Lazarus is sick, and Jesus delays, and during that time, he dies. And he says, for your sake, I'm glad I was not there to heal him when he was sick, so that you may believe. But let us go to him. What does this mean? Jesus is saying, you guys would have believed seeing me heal him from being sick to some degree, but when you see me raise him from the dead, you're going to have a new evidence to demonstrate and give reason for your faith in me. Jesus is not opposed to evidence for faith. Another one is John 14:29 says, now I have told you before it takes place, so that when it does take place, you may believe. Telling people things before they take place is called prophecy. So that when it takes place, you may believe. Jesus is saying, I've prophesied to you about what's going to happen, so that after it happens, you'll believe. Jesus was slowly working the disciples towards faith through many demonstrations of evidence. When the disciples went out and preached, they did so with evidence. They brought the evidence of the resurrection, the accounts, the witnesses. There were many witnesses. They brought the evidence from prophecy, from the fulfilled prophecy, just like what's written here. I mean, Jesus, he's talking about what he just told them at the moment about his ascension to the Father and stuff. But this could be taken to be a statement about the entire Old Testament, is that God told us, before it takes place, so that when Jesus shows up and it takes place, we might believe. It's very true. So back to the meme. What's wrong with the meme? Faith is not belief in things without evidence. That is not a biblical view. That's not a truly Christian view. That's a popular modern view, and it's not Christian. So it says if you have evidence, you wouldn't need faith. That is also not a Christian belief. It's simply not. Now, why do people say this? Why do people get so messed up and confused on the topic of faith is belief without evidence? That's just what faith means, even though that's a very wrong thing to say. I think that faith, where they're getting off base, is faith is often about expectation for future events versus current circumstances. So faith often has to do with what will happen in the future, but hasn't happened yet. That doesn't mean there's no evidence for it. So let's say that I'm at school and I'm standing outside and it's like 3:30 p.m. and I'm waiting for my mom to come pick me up at school. And I'm a kid in this analogy here. I'm not a grown man. And I'm waiting for my mom to pick me up from school, and it's like 3:30, school's out, and I'm waiting, and she hasn't come yet. And it's 4 o'clock and she hasn't come yet. And it's 4:30 and she hasn't come yet. And it's 5 o'clock and she hasn't come yet. But every day for the past number of years, she's always come. And so I still stay there waiting, thinking, I expect her to come. And someone could say, you have no evidence that she'll come. And I could say, well, I have years of her always showing up. Something might have happened. She might have got a flat. She might have had some kind of emergency go on at work. But I'm going to wait. She'll find a way. She'll come. This is an informed evidential faith about a future thing that will happen. There's no lack of evidence there. It's the same thing with God. I have faith that I will be raised from the dead and live eternally in heaven. But I don't have that faith for no reason. It is about a future expectation, but future expectations are not the same as no evidence. If you confuse expectation with lack of evidence, you could fall for this sort of meme. This is consistent, just the continual misrepresentation of Christianity. Christianity is easy to tear down when you are willing to misrepresent it.